Hello and welcome to WD18 with myself, Jacob Culshaw, and the incredible duo of Charlie Zazzera and Sam Ucko, both of which were at the Etihad yesterday as Watford almost managed to get a result against Man City. A changed Man City, we must say, under Pep Guardiola. He even admitted afterwards that he's not really prioritising this competition at all at this point in the campaign. But don't take anything away from Watford. That was a performance to be proud of away from home. Thanks so much to everyone who's watching live. If you are listening to this on audio, make sure to drop us a review, leave a like on the video, subscribe to WD18, comment down below your thoughts on anything we discuss here today, and follow us on WD18 at WD18 fans on socials. Now, we had a bit of a chat before we went live because obviously the lads went yesterday. They made the trip up to Manchester. Now, it was a slightly different away day for both of these guys. So, Charlie, what time did you leave to get to the game, and what time did you get home? First off,
to be fair, I met some of the Northwest Hornets in the pub. Shout out to Rob and Russ who might be listening, and Russ's boy Finley was mascot for the day.
I love
which
that.
was a nice touch. So we had a good one, and I left at about 5 to get to the pub. I was in traffic for like an hour, so I didn't get there till like 6:15. Then walked down to the Etihad, and I reckon I got home at about 10:30. Something like that.
Oh my! For people who are watching, by the way, Sam's just gone full on facepalm. Sam, what time did you set off, and what time did you get home? Bear in mind, we're not going to give the exact location, but where Charlie and Sam live couldn't be further away.
Yeah, I got the club coach yesterday just because it was the cheapest and most viable option, just with how unreliable trains are at the minute. So it set off at about 2:00, 2:15, I think it was. Got to the Etihad about 7:00, so it was about 5 hours on the way there. We left the Etihad at probably about 10:00, 10:15. Didn't arrive through my front door until 3:15. Was up for work at 7 this morning. So yeah, I'm absolutely knackered. On top of that, my route home on the way back from Oslo the other day was meant to get in at about 9:00 in the evening. However, we had to do an emergency landing in Copenhagen, so didn't end up getting home until about 1 a.m. So I am genuinely more tired than I can remember. But it was all worth it for Tom Cleverley going up against Pep Guardiola.
Sam, if it's any consolation, I forgot to charge my phone, which is very rare last night, and which meant my alarm didn't go off, so I had a nice lie until like 9:15.
Oh, he's rubbing it in. He's rubbing it in. Goodness me. And I watched from the comfort of my home. So we saw, it was all going off, lads. I know you probably weren't following it on social, but particularly with Bar's disallowed goal, my timeline was just filled with people saying, how have this not been given? We've been robbed of away limbs. Now, thankfully, both the lads got to celebrate a goal, which we would have taken before the game. I actually had this discussion with a guy at work because he was saying, would you take a 4-0 before the game? And bearing in mind our records, I'm not one to be too pessimistic, but our record at the Etihad is absolutely stinking. I think back to the 8-0. I think back to the 6-1. I think back to 5-4. Every single number bar 10 probably at the Etihad. So if you had said to me yesterday 4, I probably would have unfortunately gone, okay, fine. But to come away with 2-1, genuinely, I think a lot of Watford fans are quite happy. So let us know your thoughts on Watford's performance. As always, this is in partnership with Hertfordshire Mind. We did get a goal yesterday through Tommin. So if you want to donate another £1 into the pot, the link is in the description below. Go on, Thomas, who basically became Kevin De Bruyne for a split second. Charlie, am I right to say that Watford fans are pretty happy with the result? And if anything, slightly frustrated that we didn't take Manchester City to penalties.
When's the open top bus parade?
We won the second half, by the way.
Yeah, we did win the second half. Got a few nibbles on that one. It was a weird one, like especially for the start that we had. I'm sure we'll kind of break down the game, which I didn't think this video would have a lot to talk about, to be honest, because I thought it would just be humbling, and we're not going to analyse all of City's 8 or 9 goals. But considering the start of the game, and even the first half was not great. At half time, I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit meh. But to be fair, in the second half, especially when Georgie came on, and I've got some kind of screen grabs I can go through a bit later on, but we had a real chance of getting a result. And I thought the way we set up was really good, especially compared to last time. Shrewd from Tom, and I thought all the players applied themselves excellently. Like I mentioned it in the last stream, we were talking about City, they're going to rest all their players. We're the ones who rested all of our players. City still had John Stones, Carl Walker, Rico Lewis, Foden, Grealish. So we were more under strength than them, if anything. And I thought it was a really, really good, encouraging performance. I think the one caveat I would say is because we conceded so early, let's have it right. City were in first gear for most of the game. However, we still applied ourselves really, really well, and we could have gone to pens.
We could have gone to pens. Now, Sam did an instant match reaction where he was outside the Etihad. The sirens were going off, and Sam was absolutely, it's delighted. The word, Sam, because I think you. Do you know what? Sam?
I think so. Yeah.
The word I would do, just incredibly proud of the Watford performance. Now, Sam, talk to me. Why were you proud of that Watford performance? What did you see from Watford yesterday that made you come up, get that coach back, get in your door at 3 a.m. and go, you know what, that was all worth it?
Yeah, definitely. I think leaving the stadium yesterday was one of the weirdest atmospheres I've ever seen for a team that had just lost a game, because Watford fans were almost celebrating like we'd won the game in a way. I think, firstly, you have to say that it was mainly just because it was better than everyone expected. We were all expecting a pumping. Like you said, Jacob, if someone said to you, would you take 4-0? I actually think a lot of Watford fans would have said yes to taking a 4-0 before the game. But the fact that we scored, first of all, should have had a second goal, and contained Man City. The big caveat is, I think it's every Watford fan will admit, City weren't really trying, I don't think. And I don't think that they really had to get out of, they didn't get out of first gear, to be honest with you. Me and Charlie were joking about John Stones. Didn't look like he broke sweat all evening. But that being said, I just think that the way it can be an intimidating place to go when you're up against Foden, Walker, Stones, Ortega, Rico Lewis, Grealish, all those players. And I think Watford players really, really rose to the challenge yesterday. They were brave. We stuck to our principles. We didn't go into our shell at all. And I think that there was actually, the thing that really surprised me was when the Watford team sensed blood, there was a genuine belief there that we could go on to win the game and go and beat Man City or go and get something, which really, really surprised me. And it's something that I'm really, really proud of. And I think all credit to Tom Cleverley and to the Watford side.
Let's get more into yesterday. Rio makes the comment that despite it being a changed Manchester City team, Man City's players who played yesterday cost them £415 million. Ours cost us 16 million. When you break it down, Loser 8 million-ish, Bio 5 million, Georgie 2.5, Duomo 1 million, etc. So that kind of shows that the gap, not only between Man City and Watford, but the gap between Man City and the Championship, when you think of the gulf between the two teams. And that was probably City's C team, I want to say, despite them having quite a big bits of talent on the bench as well. Let's go through that Watford lineup, Charlie, that Cleverly put out there. As you say, there were changes. Jonathan Bond in goal, a back five of Ebosele, Porteous, Ogbonna making his Watford debut, Morris at left centre-back, Larouci at left wing-back, Loser, Ken Sema and Tom Ince kind of tucking into a 3 at times. Mm-hmm. You kind of felt that it was going to be Ince next to Loser. That was what, when the graphic came out, I thought was going to be the case. But it was actually Sema, Loser and Ince in a sort of tight 3 that went wide at times. And then Bayo and Barr leading the line. Now, what did you make, Charlie, of that setup from Tom Cleverley? Did you see what he was trying to do against this City team?
Yeah, absolutely. It was quite clear from the outset. I can show here. And what I want to pick up on a point that Sam raised there, because he's absolutely spot on. And as we talk about the game, there's loads of examples of how we did stick to our principles. So although we played against City and we changed shape, the principles for Clev's ball was absolutely there. Interesting, actually, when you look at City set up first, and this is actually what they did against Arsenal. I wanted to show on the actual tactics board because it'd be clearer, but City have been playing a 1-3 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 1-3-6, and that's what they played against Arsenal as well, which is quite surprising. I think Diaz played at the lowest. Basically, their 3 centre halves kind of step into midfield when they've got possession, and they had the 1 centre midfielder. Yesterday, they had 2 young lads the centre midfielder, and the 16-year-old who played left centre back, who had the collision with Bar. And then if you look at our shape, we were in a 5 across the back, and as you said, Jacob, 3 in midfield of Tom Ince, Loser, and Ken Sema, and 2 up front. And I just thought that was a really shrewd way we set up. We knew how dangerous City were going to be. You could see they had 6 against our 5 anyway. So it was we had to be really concentrated. We tried to get our players like Ince, Loser, Ken Sema on the ball where we can. But the one thing that I was most pleased about is I thought we had an outlet at all time with these two, especially Quadro Bar. So I think the way we set up was pragmatic, but really, really shrewd. And I think in the second half, what I really liked about Cleverley, the game plan was, even though it was 1-0 early on and 2-0 in the second half, but you could see with those changes, those substitutions, bringing on Tom Delly, bringing on Chapfadazzi, we definitely opened up and we got more expansive. So I thought it was a really good game plan from Clevs.
And very close, Sam, to paying off as well. When you think about the opportunities, particularly in the second half, there was a bit of momentum. Let's go back to the first goal, though, Sam. Again, it's another early goal conceded, and people are going to say, yes, it's not in the league, but it is another early goal. And it goes back to what we said, Sam, about managing the game, because I felt actually on the whole, Watford managed the game pretty well. You know, they picked their moments cleverly, as Charlie said, made the subs in the second half where he brought a Chapfadazzi on who can carry us up the pitch. Bar got really into the game, but again, it's an early goal. Who's the fault for the goal? And number 2, why does this keep happening?
Yeah, I think, look, when you're up against Man City, if they're going to score goals of quality, you can sit back and go, fair play, better players. The frustrating thing was this goal was so avoidable. I've watched it back and I think it's probably, it's 95% Ryan Porteous' fault. At the time, I was thinking, could Bondi be a bit sharper, almost off his line to receive the ball? But that would be being incredibly harsh on Bondi, and who had a brilliant game yesterday, by the way, as well. I think it's a really hot topic at the moment, generally playing out the back, as it always is, because I think it was Roy Keane on the overlap was talking about Oldham playing out the back against Salford when they were losing or something like that. And I think there is one thing that I've always said with playing out the back, there's a time and a place. And the time and place not to do it is in the first 5 minutes at the Etihad when you're trying to keep it tight. And I think that's where this Watford team really need to learn, and where there's still that bit of naivety. Obviously, I wasn't on the Norwich analysis, but from catching up with the game, the big thing that I'd come out with and say that a lot of those Watford mistakes and the performance as a whole was naive. And that mistake in the first 5 minutes, again, was naive. And look, I'm not overly annoyed with it because I'm prepared to build under Tom Cleverley. And I think we're going to have to endure these painful moments so these players can learn from it, grow from it. And Cleverley as a manager can learn from it and grow for it as well. But yeah, ultimately it's about managing the game, and I don't think Watford did that well at all in the first 5 minutes.
It's a difficult one though, isn't it, Charlie? Because on the one hand, we have a style of play, we need to keep it. On the other hand, you think, can we manage the game a little bit better in the early stages? But then when you flip it, I do feel City are a completely different entity in the respect that it's not like Norwich, where if you play down the channels, you might get a second ball or you might get the ball back quite quickly. If you go long against City, you might not get the ball back for 4 or 5 minutes because they'll just play it around you. Sorry, I know you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, I disagree a bit in terms of it being a problem about playing out the back. I actually think our build-up's been pretty good this season, and it has been a bit not noticeable simply because I do think we know when to get it, when to go long if we need to. But I think it wasn't necessarily the actual playing out from the back. It was just an individual error from Porteous. And this game was a really bit, for me, like a redemption arc for Ryan Porteous as we go along. There's some good examples. After this, when he made that error, his head went down, and I thought, oh, God, here we go. And obviously, we highlighted some of his mistakes. And he did an interview with the club afterwards, which I really encourage people to go listen to, because he owned his mistake. He said, yeah, it was my fault. But I thought the character he showed in particular after that was really, really impressive. So I don't think it was a building out the back problem. I just think it was an individual error, and those things happen.
Where do we stand on Porteous? Because I think he's a topic we should get into now, because at the end of the day, it was his fault for the goal. The pass is loose. Bond wasn't expecting it to be as underhit as it was. And to be fair to Bond, he was very close to taking his man out as well. He actually did really well to pull out of that. It could have easily been a penalty if he'd followed through with his kick. But Charlie gathered some stats about Porteous' performance. He had the most defensive actions, 17 against City, the most clearances, he was the most foul player. He won the most duels for Watford. He won the most he won 2 out of 2 aerial duels as well. But yet, Sam, the one thing that we mention about him is at the key moment, he lets himself down. And it's so frustrating with Porteous because his intentions are right. He can be rash. I don't think he's being rash because he's deliberately being rash. I think he's almost trying too hard at times. So how do we manage it with him? Is it a case of just saying, especially for a guy of his experience as well, how would you manage Porteous if you were Cleverly? Because there's that overall performance yesterday was good, but yet it's always just clouded with, he's done that. He's done that, Ryan. You've let yourself down a little bit.
Yeah, watching Ryan Porteous, sometimes I don't know whether to laugh or cry. It was such an interesting and probably the most Ryan Porteous performance ever yesterday. Like you say, Jacob, he can just let himself down at those key moments. And I think you're right. I think he's sometimes the player. And I've said this before with Dan Backman. I actually see a lot of similarities between the two players. I think sometimes they try too hard in a way. And that ultimately, I think, particularly with, we've said it with Backman before, but with Porteous in this case, I think he's a very emotional player. And sometimes I think he lets that override him in a way. Sometimes that can be for the better and he can be really, really aggressive. Sometimes that can be for the worse, like we saw maybe yesterday, like we saw in the Euros, obviously, famously, when he got sent off for that tackle in Ilkay Gundogan. So how old is he now? He's 26, 27, Ryan Porteous?
Give me 2 secs. Let me just check. But I think
imagine like 25, but
25.
25.
He mentioned in that interview he done with the club about he's going through a tricky period. And I think that does go back to the Euros and that game against Germany. And I think for him, what he needs to do, and I can't remember where I listened to it, is when you are in a bad moment and bad run of form, just get back to basics, just get through the game and don't exert yourself. Because after yesterday, I thought he was brilliant. His application is always amazing. And yeah, it's just those basic areas. If he can stamp those out, I honestly think he could be a good player for us. I just think he's in a difficult moment in his career so far.
I just think he's a bit. I want to see more maturity from him when he plays, because I know he's only 25. I thought he was slightly older, but that's because he's one of Watford's most experienced players at the moment, and he's probably a player who players will look at him and see him as a bit of a leader. And there was sometimes yesterday as well. I know some people enjoy it, and this is when I say I don't know whether to laugh or cry, but he's sprinting past the halfway line against Man City, and that's just not a good idea because it's just going to leave gaping holes. And it's just a case with game management with Porteous. I just think sometimes he gets too emotional. I think he's got all the tools to be a really, really good player, but I just think sometimes he lets himself down. I think you're right, Charlie. I think it's a case with him go back to basics. But yeah, to be honest with you, if Zazzera was fully fit with Ogbonna now, I'd probably take Porteous out of the team. Is
he being instructed to do that though, Sam? Or do you think that's on him that he's rushing out?
I think we're seeing this now, manager after manager, with Ryan Porteous. The emotional. I'm not necessarily just saying with the rushing out, but and sometimes it does work well. I can't remember which game it was where he overlapped and did he nearly get an assist or got an assist?
Yeah, I forgot the game, but I remember last season at home. Was it Leeds?
Yeah. Might have been Leeds. Yeah, it might have been last season. It's just more things like the tackles, the irrational tackles, the jumping out at the wrong time, and the decision making as well, which we're seeing manager after manager. And I think ultimately there are these themes recurring, which make it clear that for me it's the player rather than the manager who's instructing him to do so.
Yeah, let us know some of your thoughts on Porto. Ben says, I think Porto's issues are psychological, to be honest. There's quality there. He just needs to turn the rev counter down 10%. I do agree with that last line. It does feel like he plays on the edge quite a bit, Porteous, and sometimes with your centre-backs, you don't want that for a full 90. I know that's what probably makes him the player he is, but for someone who doesn't need to do it all the time, he doesn't need to play at 100 miles an hour all the time. CT Gaming says Porteous isn't good enough to be fair. It's game after game he's making mistakes. Brown Electron says he played well in the end. Alex says the Porto Bond clash late in the game was hairy. Yeah, I was concerned at that point. Look, we mentioned the first goal, Porteous to blame for that one, and we mentioned his overall performance. We probably do have to get on to one of the biggest talking points, one that's gone viral actually within sort of the football space, Charlie, was the incident with Quadro Bar in the first half. Now, firstly, I wanted to give Bar his flowers because, my words, this guy, he's one of the most exciting players in the squad. I think Chakfadatsi's my top in terms of excitement, and it's closely followed by Bar because every time he gets the ball, he looks to go forward. He looks to use all of his ability. And what I like about Bar is although he's 21, he still feels like a player who's just burst onto the scene, and he feels quite raw when you watch him, which I love because he's so unpredictable. You don't know which way he's going to go. And he's just got so many of the attributes I think as fans we look for in terms of what we want to see from an attacker, particularly in the final third. And he had that moment where he was, is it fair to say, Charlie, he was robbed of his moment at the Etihad?
Yeah, just lastly on Porto, he actually plays a key role in Tom Ince's goal, so I'll get to that later on. But Sam didn't like that.
Too much Porteous for Sam's liking, and he's off the screen. Charlie, talk to me about Bar.
Yeah, he was brilliant again yesterday. Every time he's played for Watford this season, he's been unreal. I think he's always made an impact when he's come on, and he from the start. He was amazing yesterday as well. We saw Watford break. As we went on, we could see him being physical. He was physical all game against all the players, and then he had a chance, and the finish was ruthless, wasn't it? Straight into the bottom corner with real venom. Me, Sam, the away, and there was limbs, and then we saw that the flag was up or it got disallowed, and obviously we knew it wasn't offside, so we knew it must have been a foul. And the only thing is interesting when you watch it back, I thought, he didn't argue too much. But another interesting angle was none of the City players argued either, which is normally a bigger telltale sign. So, yeah, and I think everyone's made a really, really good point. I think you guys have on Twitter and stuff like that is how many times have we seen Haaland do that this season before scoring? So I think he uses his strength well, the old-fashioned shoulder-to-shoulder gesture. Really gutted from him. He didn't have his moment because another little interesting subplot was Man City wanted to buy Quadro Bar when he would kind of breaking through at Rochdale, so it would have been good for him to get his goal yesterday.
I'm trying to see both sides of it, Sam, because I saw it in real time, and initially I was like, "Wow, the centre back's gone flying there." When Bar made contact with him, and we've seen that actually a few times this season. For people who hadn't watched Bar, they would have probably been surprised that a lad's gone flying that much, but that he's pretty known for how well he can put his body about. But I've seen it, not only have I seen the ball striking from Bar, really impressive, which is something to mention as well when we get into the conversation about where he fits in this front three. But I've seen the goal, and there's not, as Charlie said, not been many complaints from City players. There was a couple of complaints from, I think, Bayo, who was offside for the whole move, which is pretty impressive. Bar's kind of smiled because he's like, how has that been given? I got the impression anyway, sort of like, how is that a foul? And he later went on to tweet, foul ? With a laughing emoji. But Sam, I'm struggling to see how that's been disallowed. And I think you speak to the majority of people on this one and they agree that it shouldn't have been disallowed. Where do you stand on it?
Oh my God, it's a blatant goal. I just don't see where the foul is, to be honest with you, at all. It's a 50-50 challenge. And look, ultimately, the thing that I'm having with the refs at the moment is that we just want a bit of consistency. Obviously, one of the big talking points at the moment with Arsenal is the yellow card situation. Is that obviously they've had 2 players sent off recently for kicking the ball away, Declan Rice and Trossard, and they're turning around and saying, well, this is happening every single week. And I think Arteta came out and said something like, if refs are booking for this, then every game's going to finish 10 against 9. I think the same logic can be applied here. If that Quadro Bar goal is being disallowed, then Erling Haaland, I know he scored his 100th goal for City the other day, but you can probably put him down to 50 if you're disallowing goals for that, to be honest with you. Genuinely, though, you are probably looking at getting rid of about 10 of his goals. 50 is a bit of an exaggeration. But, yeah, I just want a bit of consistency, and I don't really understand it, to be honest with you. I think I could tell straight away as well, being in the ground. I know it was on the other side, but I could tell it wasn't a foul. I was thinking, why on earth has that been disallowed? I looked for the offside flag and it didn't come. And I was thinking, why on earth has that been disallowed? So, yeah, just a bit of consistency is all we ask for. And I think ultimately we've been robbed. Whether it had gone on to finish as a draw, I doubt it, because I think if Watford had pegged Man City back, I think City probably would have started trying and we could have seen maybe a 3 or a 4-1. So I don't think it changes the narrative too much, but it's just frustrating because it would have been a great moment for Watford fans and for Quadro.
For sure. I think probably what's disallowed the goal is the centre-back he's come up against. Now, Braithwaite made his debut for City at 16 years old. If that was Cole Walker on the end of it, if that was John Stones on the end of it, Akanji, etc., these guys who are maybe more established and physically probably more built out as well than Braithwaite, when you just look at the stature of the players. If Barr had done that to them, not only would they have probably not gone as flying as much, but also I think the referee's probably thinking, well, if he's gone shoulder to shoulder with Cole Walker, then actually he's probably put in the same resistance or a little bit less, but Barr's won him and just outstrengthened him. I think probably the fact that he's come up against Braithwaite has cost him slightly. Also, the bit I'm really frustrated about, and to be honest, this was rent-free in my head for the whole game because I was seeing people like yourself, Sam, posting the clip about Erling Haaland against Adam Webster this season, who did pretty much the exact same thing, granted in a different area of the pitch, but shoulder to shoulder. He's knocked Webster over. He's gone in and scored. I think what I have an issue with is that the referee didn't give it initially. The lino hasn't flagged for it. So actually, he's taken it's gone in and then he's pulled it back for whatever reason. It's almost like he's processed it and gone, oh, that can't stand. And I have to say, I'm convinced of it. If Erling Haaland had scored that goal, Charlie, it wouldn't have been ruled out. But my better question would be, do you think that would have changed the course of the game?
No, I'm not as angry really, because I think of the time it was for the game. I'm more gutted for Barr that he didn't get his moment. But say that happened after it was 2-1 and that was in the last minute for us to get a result. Do you know what I mean? Would be absolutely fuming. Yeah, exactly. But actually, so just Sam saying about, I know you saying about Bio there, just remind me of a couple of things I wanted to pick up on his performance. Classic Bio performance. One should have scored a header. Great ball in from Larousse, and he had a really good chance to score a header that he hit wide, which is classic.
He was better yesterday, Larousse, by the way. Thought he did well.
Yeah. And
he was tied to his man, by the way. He was tied to his man. He was definitely instructed to do that. Sorry, Charlie. Yeah,
just last one on Bio. There was a moment where there was a ball in the air, and I thought, oh, you've got a chance to kind of get physical with Carl Walker there. And he tries to, and Carl Walker stands up and he literally bounces off him and just lays on the floor. Oh, Vacuum, we love you.
Did you guys, I don't know if you guys clocked it, but when Bio got subbed off, he wasn't happy.
I saw that.
What did we make of that reaction? Because I think that's the first time this season, Sam, where probably a decision by Cleverley hasn't gone down well with a member of the squads. And Bio's reaction was he was not pleased to be getting subbed off. To be honest, though, I don't think he could have many complaints, could he?
No, definitely not. I mean, Bio's done this 2 or 3 times now, hasn't he? I think that was a game. Was it when he got subbed off for Toby Adeyemo against Blackpool under Slaven Bilic? And I think he kicked off when he got subbed off for that as well. And I think it's happened once more as well, to be honest with you. But yeah, look, Bio also thinks he should be playing in the first division, which is why supposedly he wanted that move to Udinese in the summer. So yeah, I'm not sure.
I've seen that flying around, Sam. Who is that? Who is that?
The club said it. Gianluca Nani said it. I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah, he's starstruck. Yeah, I mean, I think Gianluca Nani came out and said Bio wanted to leave because he thinks he can play at a higher level, but we wanted him in the squad. I think the quote was something like that. That was on the official club channels. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if I am, but yeah, I mean, he's got no complaints, to be honest with you. I think he's probably frustrated because he knows that I'd actually argue that he's probably now third in the pecking order to start in the number 9 slot, because probably Jefferson and Quadro. I think Barr's, we'll talk about it where Barr fits in, but I think Barr's probably taken over him in terms of starting in that number 9 slot. So yeah, I think the frustration probably came from within himself. That I think in a way, I don't want to say it was a missed opportunity because it's against Man City, but he should have scored, and some of his runs were terrible yesterday as well.
Let's do that now before we move on to the rest of the game. Charlie, your favourite front three with the players available at this moment in time? Enough of all of it now, really.
Yeah, Jefferson, Chatfordazzi, and I tweeted it last night. Bar should be starting on Saturday. Hey, every time he stepped on the pitch for Watford, even in pre-season, he's been incredible this season. I was a bit more. I didn't know what it'd look like him playing, and at the beginning of yesterday's game, I thought he was going to be as like a 10, but he played as a striker and he done three times as much as Bayo. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much difference between the 10 and the 9. And I think whenever he's played as a 10, he's been great. He made that goal against Derby, didn't he? Was it Sissoko's goal when he got to the byline? He's just so direct and powerful. He's just not the player that I thought he was. He's an absolute battering ram, and he's been brilliant. So I think as it stands, as of this moment, I'd go Jefferson, and then behind him Georgie and Barr.
I'm gonna back my take about Barr as a 9.
And he's going to die on this hill, isn't he?
I'm going to die on it. To be fair, I don't know when did I say that? Was that early doors? Was it early enough to call it a decent take? We'll see anyway by the end of the season. Chatfordazzi left, Vata right, Barr through the middle. Sam.
I just want to say on Georgie, by the way, I actually think probably the biggest negative last night was how well Georgie played. Because teams would have watched that, and that little cameo from Chatfordazzi, he was unbelievable. Genuinely.
Unfortunately, I think Georgie may have just put himself in the shop window for Jan transfer window, Sam.
Yeah, I know he was up against tired legs, but he was probably the best player on the pitch when he came on, to be honest with you. I know, again, City players weren't really at their best, but he was quality last night, Georgie. And I do fear that when Premier League teams watch those analysis videos of Man City, they're going to pick up on Georgie, and potentially there's going to be interest come January. Mixed emotions, because great to see him do well, but he's the next one on the conveyor belt, isn't he, in terms of your Richarlison, João Pedro, Asprilla. We move. I think Georgie, though.
Talk to me about your 3, Sam.
The 3, sorry, I forgot the question there.
That's okay. So you not in terms of like the best 3, but your if you were Tom Cleverley, this was the 3 you would play. Your favourite 3, basically.
It's so difficult because I don't want to write Jefferson off yet, but I also don't like what I've seen so far. I don't think he holds the ball well, to be honest with you. I don't think he holds it
one
up
game,
well.
lads.
I know it's one game. If you're asking me what would I start against Sunderland on Saturday, I'd agree with Jacob. To be honest with you, I'd agree with Jacob. But in the long term, I'd probably agree with Charlie. But it's great that we've got this problem, isn't it? It's been a long time since we've had so many good options in there as well. And obviously Kiembe's injured, and you imagine if Kiembe was fit, Kiembe would be starting as well. So it's I think I worked out there's something like 14 different combinations or something that Tom Cleverley could go with in terms of the attacking options. So we're blessed with options at the minute in that area.
That's a decent pub quiz question, that. Name all of the variations of Watford's front 3. One of the stats that Charlie didn't mention, actually, that he written down here, and I always have to credit Charlie with the stat because he plucks them out of absolutely nowhere. Quadro Barr's performance, only Jack Grealish had more successful dribbles than Barr yesterday as well. So that just underlines how direct he is in the final third. Before we get on to the second half, just a couple of comments from you guys. There was one about Bayo. I like this one from GT Official. Another perspective. I don't mind a player like Bayo reacting like that to being subbed. I want them to be annoyed at coming off. Shows that they want to be involved in every second they can. Salah did the same under Klopp, and they had a brilliant relationship. I wouldn't look too deep into it. Bike John says, I'm more concerned with what Bayo does when on the pitch rather than what he did leaving it. Mark says, although we have not seen much of Jefferson and we need to give him a chance, I would actually go with Kiembe or Vata, Chatfordazzi and Barr up front. Kiembe needs to be put in that conversation, I guess. Rio says Georgie wouldn't be here if he made the right decisions and had good end product. He is so good at carrying the ball, but not that final pass. And he also says Jefferson has only played the amount of minutes in his career, which most players do in half a season.
I mean, I don't want to write off Jefferson. I think I just sounded way harsher than I should have done. I do think he will come good. I think there is potentially a player there. And like I said, I think if a club who are on the upward trajectory as Bournemouth are at the moment of seeing that talent and bringing him in, I think it's definitely a good signing. And if Cleverley backs him, then so do I. But if you're asking me in the short term, who'll come in and instantly get results, I think you'd have to go with Quadro Barr up front.
Ben says, I think Johnny Bonds showed that he is capable duty as backup to Backman. There was a couple more comments, a couple on losers' performance. Charlie, before we touch on that second goal.
I think he did nothing to stake his claim. He had an opportunity playing against good players, but I thought he was pretty bang average yesterday. To be honest, it's hard to really judge when you're against City and when you look at our possession compared to there. But I thought he was off it in terms of out of possession, closing down, tackling. When he was on the ball, he made bad decisions. Yeah, I think the Imran Loser Watford story sadly is it's not going to last too long. I don't know. I just get his body language doesn't seem right to me. I feel like sometimes he's going down too easy, moaning at the ref too much. That might just be his character, but has he had enough opportunities this season? I don't know, but the fact that he came into Watford for £8 to £10 million when we're in the Premier League and now he's struggling to get into a championship sign. It's not good. Clefs must see him every day in training. And obviously we know some of his antics and his behaviour last season. So, yeah, not good. I just think if you want to, at least yesterday, if you want to kind of stake your claim, you need to put yourself about. Plenty of players did, but I don't think Imran was one of them.
In his defence, he has just come back from injury, is what I will say.
Has he?
I think he was out for a little bit. He did pick up a knock, if I'm not mistaken. Not a long-term one, but he was out. Like, it was his first start in a little while. But I don't think I still go back to that Millwall away game. He's not been the same player since that game. I know that's a couple of years ago, but I think he was just on the cusp of getting to the Morocco squad for the World Cup. And he got that injury at Millwall. He's playing decent football under Bilic. It wasn't a great game in general, but I remember he picked up the injury. And he's just not been the same player since that moment, unfortunately. So we'll see. Not to say he played badly yesterday. I didn't think that by any stretch, but he just isn't the same player. I just don't think he's got the swagger maybe he did a little bit beforehand. I remember we played United at home in the Prem, and he was arguably the best player on the pitch.
I mean, that is probably his last appearance in the Watford shirt, to be honest with you, because I can't imagine he's going to get any minutes in the league. And unless he's still here come the FA, I imagine he'll leave in that first week in the January transfer window. And because of that, I can't imagine he'll play in the FA Cup either. So that might be it for Imran Loser and Watford.
Did like the little cameo from Duomo though.
Yeah. I just see when Sam was saying this could be the last bit he played against Watford, just little smile, little Thierry Henry smirk.
Please, please go Imran.
But yeah, Duomo is definitely worth talking about because he looked pretty tidy yesterday, didn't he?
Go on, then, Charlie. The floor is yours before we touch on that second goal.
Yeah, big lad, tidy on the ball. I thought he was. The clips I've seen of him on the ball, he didn't look great. It was more as kind of athleticism, but I thought he looked pretty tidy on the ball yesterday. So yeah, excited to see what he can do. I know Sam said about Loser there, but you've got to remember we are quite light in that centre midfield position. Do you think now, if Tom Delhi or Sissoko got injured, Tom Ince would come in or Loser?
Sam, you take this one.
Yeah, it is a really, really difficult question. That I think we have to talk about Tom Ince's performance yesterday. I thought he was great. I think that was, along with, this little EFL Cup resurgence we've seen from Tom Ince this season, along with that hat trick. I think he completed 100% of his passes yesterday as well, something like 20 out of 20 passes as well. I'm not sure if that's a big number or not, but I think he completed all of them. And obviously that goal as well. And I think at times, I think Tom Ince could be useful to this Watford side. By no means would he start, but I think Tom Cleverley likes him as well. So yeah, I think we'll see a bit more of Tom Ince now over the coming weeks. And yeah, I think Duomo as well certainly put a claim in that he could start games not start games, but at least have a role if Tom Delhi or Sissoko are tired.
Well, with Ince, it was at both ends, wasn't it? He scored the beauty at one end and cleared one off the line with his head at the other. So it was an action-packed performance from Tom Ince, who basically turned into Kevin De Bruyne with that beautiful. And I thought, hello, here we go. The comeback's on. Let's do the second goal that we conceded, though, Charlie. I know you've got a bit of analysis on sort of where we went wrong for this one. A slightly different goal, really, to the first one, but still, yeah, just a bit cheap, really.
Yeah, obviously watching it in the ground, it happened pretty quickly, so I didn't really know what happened until I looked at it today. But before I go into it, any thoughts from you two in terms of who was at fault or what you made of that second goal?
I thought Ogbonna was great, but I watched it back earlier and I thought Ogbonna stepped out a bit too quickly, maybe. I'm not sure if that's something you were going to go into, Charlie, there. I thought Ogbonna stepped out a bit too quickly. And yeah, I hate to say it because he's my boy, but at the time I thought Bondi probably could have done a bit better as well. It is near post. But he definitely made up for it in the second half.
Yeah, Sam, good analysis, mate. I just wanted to show this move that City done, and they tried in the second half, which actually led to our goal. John Stones at the base. He's tried to wrap one into Rico Lewis, and Rico Lewis is such a good player. He's got the ability on the turn to just pop it off in here quickly. Imran Loser, nowhere near getting near McAtee in the middle. He popped it back to Rico Lewis, and like Sam said, can you see it here? Yeah. So like Sam said, Ogbonna tries to come out really, and he gets nowhere near it. And Rico Lewis kind of prods it on one more to Matheus Nunes. I haven't done the best in getting the slides there to show it. I should have got more, but I didn't want to get too many slides. And I actually think where you see Ogbonna kind of he's gone out here and he's out of position. Our mate Porto kind of had a decision there. Does he go rushing out to try and close the ball down, or does he fill in for Ogbonna? He actually filled in for Ogbonna here, you can see. And then the only problem is now Matheus Nunes had 3 touches, which you just can't afford people to get. So this is his first touch. And you can see here the distance between Porto and Nunes, but this is his first touch. This is his second touch on his left foot. And this is the third touch. And yeah, that distance between Ryan and Nunes there, barely anything in it. And that's all it needs for him to score his goal. So let's get it in the corner. I didn't actually think it was Bond's fault, to be honest. I think it was a pretty good finish. It just shows if we did this move again in the Championship, it never happens, because Rico Lewis, there's no players in the Championship who has that ability. And yeah, Nunes, I thought that was a good finish. I do think you're right, Sam, about Ogbonna coming out.
Yeah, I mean, something I wanted. Sorry, Charlie. I mean, something I wanted to touch on as well. If you want to go, I mean, in a couple of slides back where Ogbonna did step out as well, I thought the back four actually was in a really, really good shape. I thought Porteous made a really good decision to stick rather than to go and attack his man, basically, and to attack the space. And because of that, I think in the Championship, realistically, we'd be okay in terms of that position as well. So, yeah, I think. Yeah, that's where it's difficult when you're up against Man City in terms of, it's difficult. It's difficult to learn too much from that against a team of that quality, because in the Championship, ultimately, we wouldn't have to come up against something like that.
Charlie, twice. Charlie, you talked us through that goal, bang on. Talk us through Tom Ince's. We pulled one back, and I have to say, lads, there was a couple of opportunities where Chapfadazzi was running with the ball. The lads were pushing up. We felt like I had a bit of momentum. It wasn't comfortable for City at all. Pep was getting agitated. I think he'd realised, oh my God, not that this is a priority for him, but the fact that this could go to penalties. And then at the end of the day, we know penalties can be a lottery. But Tom Ince got one back. He had his moment. Yeah, Bard didn't have his, but Ince had his, and it was a lovely goal to do it as well.
Yeah, no, I quickly just wanted to highlight something Sam mentioned about our principles and sticking to them. This was in the second half. Look how high kind of Ebeselli was. He tried to knock a ball into Tom Ince because he knew that he's got one in the locker. Unfortunately, that ball didn't come off. But again, look at kind of Laroussi's position there, really high up for our fullbacks. But what was nice to see, seconds after, this was our shape. We got straight back in. That 5 again, the two fullbacks got right back into position, back in the free. So again, maybe City weren't like blistering us on the counter attack, but I just thought that was a nice bit of improvement from the other game. Before I show the second goal, while it's in my head, obviously we talked about Ogbonna, which maybe didn't have his best moment yesterday. But what did you think about his debut?
Watching from home, I think he's on paper our best defender in terms of what he's done in his career, the experience he has, and the level he's played at. Angelo Ogbonna. Now, the one thing I have to say, well, as soon as I saw him, was we are going to have to drop the line. We're not going to be able to play a high line with Ogbonna because of the pace going the other way. But if we lean into more of the counter-attacking football that I feel Watford are more suited to, and the profile of players that we have, you look at our back line, we have the three at the back, which isn't the quickest, but on the ball and in the air, pretty strong overall. You then have you have the pace out wides with the wing backs, whether that's Larouci, Ebisele, Andrews. Sema can do a job, granted probably the slowest out the four, but the point is there's pace out wide, and we have ball carriers in the final third. So my point is, with Angelo Ogbonna, if you play counter-attacking football, which I felt that we did really well yesterday in periods of the game, he's absolutely suited to that. Where I think we might struggle with him is if we play up quite high and we try to play this possession football, which leaves us vulnerable at the back. Charlie, I know we're quite high there, but the point is we did drop into our shape quite quickly for me. And it's just probably a wider point that I do feel this Watford team are more suited to a counter-attacking football than we are possession-based football. Sam, on Angelo Ogbonna, what caught your eye in terms of what he can offer to this Watford team and maybe stuff that we need to be aware of with him as well?
I thought he was really composed on the whole, other than when he jumped out, like we just analysed with that second goal. And I think, as experienced as he is, it can be difficult coming into a game away at Manchester City when it's your first game in however long it is, 4, 5, 6 months for him. So I think we can excuse him for that. But I think it's quite clear that just with his experience, his composure, he's a cut above our other defenders in terms of what he can offer in that department. Whether it's going to be too much for him to play 2 games in a week and come in to start against Sunderland at the weekend, I suppose we'll see. But if he is fit enough, 100% he starts. I think he definitely showed that that he is still good enough to start, and what he probably lacks in pace, I think he'll make up for in experience and leadership for this Watford team.
It was a debut for Ogbonna, Charlie. It was also a full debut for Ebisele at right wing back. Bearing in mind it was his first full game in a couple of months. Does he come in for Andrews? I know he's a bit tight with his hamstring, Andrews.
Yeah, it depends really. I thought Ebisele was pretty good yesterday, more defensively. He did have a really good moment when he beat someone towards the end of the game to get to the byline. But I thought going up against Jack Grealish, he put in a really good shift and performed really well. Does he start against Sunderland? Depends about Ryan, really. I don't want to... And again, with Ebisele kind of playing for the first time in a while, if Ryan's fit, it probably makes sense. But again, it's a nice option to have. And I would not be surprised at some point if Ebisele's starting for Watford this season.
On that, we'll do who starts for Sunderland in just a second. But Charlie, we mentioned the Ince goal. We mentioned how Chakvedadze was driving us up the pitch. He actually got the most key passes for Watford yesterday as well. But Charlie, Watford did have chances to get a result. And which chances are we talking about specifically here in the second half as well, when we had to be a bit more aggressive and on the front foot?
Just want to show the goal quickly. And it was kind of similar to the one we showed a bit where they tried to get round our free by going to Rico Lewis, who's playing that kind of Trent right back inside position. That's what they tried to do again. It was actually kind of a bit of a poor pass, which I think James Morris intercepted. And he passed it into Georgie. And I think one thing to remember at this point, Ebisele went off. Matty Pollock came on for him, and Ryan Andrews was playing at right wing back. So James has knocked into Georgie. Georgie's knocked it back to Tom Dele-Bashiru. Quickly see there. They played a nice 1-2 with each other. And then Georgie's away. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, promising position. It's a 3-on-3 really, with Nunes running back, but we've got good numbers there, and that's coming into the shape against their 3, and they've got Nunes. Georgie's so good at progressing the ball. This is where he ends up. I think it takes a bit of a deflection and it comes back to him. I actually think it was poor from Carl Walker, but it comes back to Georgie, who looks to find Tom Ince in this position. But this goal doesn't happen if it isn't for the marauding right wing back, Ryan Andrews, who has just, again, this is what I'm talking about, his application. He's had a tough game. He's played all game, trying to concentrate mentally about how to mark City. He's gone to right wing back, and now he's bursting forward. Nunes, obviously, he's not too bothered about checking where he is. But I think if you look at Gvardiol, he doesn't know whether to come or go, and I think that yard of space kind of gives Tom Ince the opportunity to have a shot.
£60 million defender terrified of Watford's attacking options of Ryan Porteous and Tom Ince.
And he's got every right. He's got every right to be, because Tom Ince puts it in the top bins. And look, you can see me and Sam going absolutely mental in the And just quickly, just towards the end, this was the last chance. This was in the dying minutes, and I kept saying, "Oh, we've only got one chance. We're going to struggle." Tom Dele-Bashiru pops it round someone's head. It lands to Georgie, who takes a really, really nice touch, and he kind of gets it out on his feet and kind of drives onto City's backline. And then Georgie's in this position here, and I think Rio made a comment, but this is Georgie, and this was in like the last second where Georgie's got a decision. Does he just lay it off to Tom Ince to do another whapper, or does he try to put a through ball into? Oh, it was going so well. Does he try to put a through ball into our new right wing back Ryan Porteous? He tries to put the through ball through, and unfortunately gets cleared. But again, that was in a good position, and that wasn't the only one. We had 2 or 3 good positions. I think Georgie made them. Quadro barred one when he cut in, but I just wanted to show those examples, and really Ryan Porteous' role, giving him a shout out, because I think he played a key role in making that second goal. And yeah, it was exciting towards the end, wasn't it, Sam?
Yeah, definitely. Those last couple of minutes were, I mean, yeah, it was what you want from a football game. I think genuinely it was. The away end was buzzing. It was a great atmosphere. I think that was a moment where John Stones just hoofed it out of play by accident because he was so rattled by our forward options. It was a great end to the game, and proud of that performance.
Just what Charlie mentioned about that chance, I don't know if it was what it was like in the away ends, but I was like, go on then, we're in. And then Georgie's just not executing the pass. But there we go. It did finish Manchester City 2, Watford 1. We're back in league action this Saturday against Sunderland, back at home at Vicarage Road. Lads, just on sort of starting 11, sort of feelings for this one. Any tweaks you'd make from not this game, but from the Norwich game? So already the Norwich team that we played, this is our last league game. It was Batman in goal, so obviously Bond's going to have to come in. Pollock, Sierralta, he'll be out. Morris, Andrews, Dele-Bashiru, Sissoko, Sema, Chakvedati, Vata, with Jebison leading the line. Sam, now there's enforced changes. Bond comes in, obviously, and then the other centre back will probably be Porteous or Bonner.
I don't think Bonner won't play. I think with Preston, have we got Preston on Tuesday?
Preston's on Wednesday night, and that was my point I was going to make. I think there's going to be a lot of players who play in one and not both. For example, I think we'll see Ryan Andrews play in one game, and I think we'll see Abasali play in the other game. I'm not sure which way round that will be. If Andrews is ready for Saturday, I think Andrews will play on Saturday and Abasali will play on Wednesday night, just to give Abasali that rest. If Andrews isn't ready, I think it'll be the other way round. Likewise, I think Ogbonna will play one and Porteous will play one. I think probably Morris and Porteous will both keep their places in the team for both of those games. I think he'll go with Jebison in both games, and I think we'll see Barr start one game and Vata start the other game. Just because we have to remember as well, Barr does struggle with, I think, his quads. I think if you look at his build and the way he runs, I think it's going to be difficult for him to play at the intensity that he does almost 3 times a week. So, sorry?
Quadrobar?
Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
It was going so well, Charlie. Charlie.
Thanks for watching WDA2. Charlie, what's one thing you want to see from Watford this weekend?
A win. It's interesting. Ben made the comment about he wants to see us be a bit more disciplined and looking for kind of get that XG against low down. I think I don't think we should sit back against Sunderland. They're a really good team. Watch out for Chris Rigg, who I watched him the other day. He's an unbelievable talent. He's going to definitely play for England. Unreal. But I don't think we should. I think we should play our game. and just be a bit more savvy, kind of getting back and be a bit more pragmatic compared to what we did against Norwich. But yeah, I think it'll be Pollock, Porteous, and James Morris, Sissoko, Tom Bashiru, Andrews, Laruzio Sema, and Jebison, Georgie, and Barr, hopefully. But yeah, I just want to see keep playing our principles. I want to see the wing backs going up, getting in the boxes, and I just want to see being a bit more savvy. I think if we beat Sunderland, it would be a really good way to get back on track and get everyone believing. Because I think yesterday was a good moment for us in terms of sticking to a game plan and knowing if we apply ourselves what we can do. If we can get a result, I think I'd take a draw. But if we can get a win, I think that'd be a big moment for us earlier on in the season.
2 things I want to see this weekend. One, I'm quite keen for us not to concede in the first 5 minutes. Second thing, a nice solid 5 at the back, compact, suck Sunderland in, and we hit them on the break and we get 2 or 3. Like we did at Stoke at home. Do you remember? We got 1. They started to come on to us and we killed them. We killed them within 10, 15 minutes. I think Watford have the ability to do that to a lot of teams if you play on the break. I don't think we're suited to possession football. I think if Sunderland come to sit behind the ball, I think we'll struggle. And I think they'll win the game. But if we pick our moments, if we get kind of trap them in and hit them on the break with the ability we've got, I think it could be a good result. Sam, prediction time.
Unfortunately, I think Sunderland have started the season really, really well. I think it will be an improved performance from the Norwich game, but I think they'll just edge us out 2-1.
I'm going 1-1, Charlie.
3-3.
3-3. Getting the banker every single week. I'd stick. I'm not a betting man, but I'd probably stick a 5 on Luke 09 to score an own goal, get sent off. Always the pantomime villain against us, isn't he?
We need a football clip.
Just on Sunderland, interesting. They've actually got the 3rd lowest average possession this season, so only at 43.5%. So they're going to be looking to sit in and counter us. We've got 51.5% average possession. So I just thought that was quite interesting.
Under new manager Reggie Labrie. We'll see how we get on the weekends. So that is it. How Watford almost got a result against Manchester City, and we predicted Sunderland. Let us know your predictions for Sunderland in the comment section below. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like on the video. Subscribe to WD18. Follow us on our socials at WD18 fans. Follow Charlie, Sam, myself on our social channels. The link's in the description below. If you fancy donating £1 to Hertfordshire Mind as well, you can do that too. We will be back on Sunday night, 8 p.m. Hopefully. Be there. Be square. That's normally the slot, 8 p.m. Get it in the diaries, get it in the calendars. We'll be reviewing Sunderland, and we will see you then. Have a great weekend, guys. Hope to see you at the game and up the Hornets. Take care. You odds.